No, Sydney is off today, so I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting.
Okay. Geez, we've got quite a few missing here.
Can we confirm that I'm in the meeting?
Yes, John.
Hi, John. Hi, John.
I didn't want to add to the litany of ailments, so I just sat quietly.
Okay. Okay, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Matthew, are you doing the land acknowledgement?
Yes, I can read the land acknowledgement today. So the city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next on the agenda, declaration of interest. Is there any conflicts? Okay, no. Seeing none. Adoption of the agenda. Is there any errors or omissions that anybody sees in the agenda? Matthew?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. Although we do have two presentations listed on here, you'll notice Megan Burbeck is unfortunately unable to attend this meeting. She was suddenly off, so we won't be able to provide those presentations this time, but we can have those moved to the next meeting.
Okay. Can I have a mover to adopt the agenda with the presentation that's going to be presented to that next meeting? Councillor O'Hare? Mm-hmm. Can I have a seconder on that? Neva, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. That's unanimous. The adoption of the minutes from the February 3rd meeting. Are there any errors or omissions in the meeting minutes?
No.
Oh, seeing none. Can I have an adoption mover to adopt the minutes of the Friday, February 3rd meeting? Councillor O'Hare, may I have a seconder for that? And that will be carried. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, that is unanimous. Moving on to item number 6, correspondence. Who is going to be opening the discussion on that, Matthew?
So it's really just up for the committee to discuss. I can certainly speak to it, and I can advise on some of the key facts from it. So this Adopt a Road Program policy review was brought forward to budget through council and essentially approved to repeal the Adopt a Road policy program itself, to be replaced with 2 annual citywide cleanup day events, which would be coordinated by the Public Works and Community Services staff, along with any community volunteers. So this would be put in place in replace of the repealed Adopt a Road program itself. Brought in some additional funding from the 2023 operating budget for these 2 events, rather than the overall program. It was a recommendation from council that this be forwarded to the committee for review, just so that they are aware of it. And if they had any questions of council or feedback to give back to staff for the creation of these events throughout the year, then it's up for committees to discuss. Essentially today, it's just before you to receive for information. And if you have any discussion or information you'd like to give to staff, we can capture that. Okay,
Councillor O'Hare, you have a question?
Yes. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Matthew. Along with those 2 cleanup dates, Matthew, were there specific dates given? I know there's been a little bit of talk of Earth Day, but has there been anything, has anything been decided on a specific date?
Not at present, other than the report did recommend a spring and fall day. So certainly if there are recommendations on, when we could set those dates, I'm sure staff would be happy to take those recommendations from the committee.
And would we need a motion for that, or is that just a discussion?
At this point, I think it would just be discussion. We could capture discussion. If there's a recommended date or timeline, we'd put that in the minutes and we would forward that to staff to read and to take into consideration.
Councillor O'Hare, again?
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, should we discuss possibly having one of those days as Earth Day, which is coming up in April, I believe. So that's something that we can decide. The fall one we don't have to think about just yet, but it might be good to tap into that date already.
Okay, Ava, you have
Yes,
comment?
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if community involvement and engagement is a possibility for both of those cleanups?
Absolutely. I would say yes. Amber, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So there is a Ontario Day of Action on Litter. It's the second Tuesday in May every year. So just wanted to put that forward as a alternative date to Earth Day if that's something that we'd be interested in.
Okay, noted. Any other? Oh, Carrie, you have a comment to make?
I was just going to perhaps suggest another day besides Earth Day, just because there are so many typically community activities going on that day. You might get a better turnout. And I like Amber's idea of the Community Day of Action on Litter, because that ties in nicely with obviously the intent of the day. And perhaps a little bit later in the year, you're going to, like when the weather's a little bit warmer, you might have a better chance of having nice. What Earth Day tends to be this day that you can either get snow and horrible freezing rain, or you can just knowing from many years of running Earth Day events. So perhaps a little bit later in the season, and you may have in fact more litter by then, because there's not as many people out and about early in April as there are a little bit later in. So that's all.
Yeah, I hear you. Councillor O'Hare.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I think those are great ideas, both from Carrie and Amber. Thank you for those. Do you know what day of the week they are? I didn't have a chance to look them up, but
Earth Day is a Saturday, and the Provincial Day of Action on Litter is the second Tuesday in May. So that would be May.
Okay.
Don't mind my little singing. That would be May 9th.
Okay. All right. I think those are great suggestions. So that might be something the committee wants to discuss. Thank you.
Okay. Any other further comments on this? Okay, seeing none. What to do? Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, we'll just ask that you look for a mover and a seconder to formally receive the report or information.
Okay, can I have a motion to receive this Adopt a Road Program Policy Review? Okay, Ava, can I have a seconder? Amber? All those in favor? Very good. Opposed, if any? Okay. John, did you have a question that?
Sorry, I'm just, as I said last time, this is my third Zoom call. I'm trying to figure out how I raise my hand. So I raised my hand, and now I know how to do it. I've unraised my hand.
Okay, very good. Very good. That's the way to explain it. Well, sometimes we're all pretty green at this stuff. Okay, that has been accepted. Can we, I guess, committee business, a work plan. I think there's probably maybe some updates on some discussions that we had at our opening meeting. I wish that Leslie Daniels was here because she was involved in the comment that she made. But also, Councillor O'Hare was talking about the tree planting motion towards City Council. Do you have any updates on that, Councillor O'Hare? I know you've been involved with correspondence with the NPCA.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as we know, the federal government has their 2 billion tree program. I've sent off my information and what we're trying to create here within Thorold. And as you know, Mr. Chair, there's 2 items that I'm working on at council. One is a bylaw, and I'm awaiting news from Jason Simpson, who's going to be supplying us with a report on recommendations and suggestions from staff regarding the tree bylaw. So I don't have anything concrete yet from that department, but it should be coming, I would hope, before our next meeting so that I can bring that back and we can discuss it. I know in the beginning, I spoke about with Jason as well, wanting to try to have a tree bylaw that involved not just public lands, but private lands. And I've been doing a lot of research on various communities, and in some communities it works well. In some cities it works very well. I mean, Toronto's tree bylaw, protection bylaw is amazing, and it's really hard to take down a tree without going through the proper steps. Niagara the Lake now has a very nice solid program in place with both private and public trees that they'd like to protect and make sure that if a tree is coming down, that it's gone through the proper stages in order to justify it. Some communities have had to back away from it, and that is where the challenge lies. I think St. Catharines backed away from their mature tree protection bylaw on private lands because they deemed it to be harmful towards protecting trees, assuming that it would lead to a rush of homeowners taking down mature trees before anything could be brought to council. So they thought, well, this might be more damaging than doing good, which is what the whole purpose of the bylaw is for. So at this point, I think it's more important to protect the trees on public land, which we have full control over, and with the intent of continuing education so that we can inspire people to want to and to insist that we have a private tree bylaw. It will take a little while. I don't know if it's going to happen in this term. Personally, I'd love it to, but I also don't want to introduce something that is going to fall apart right away. So it might be, we might have to think about a 2-staged implementation or wish for how we want to roll this out. Once we hear back from staff, I'd really like to set up maybe a subcommittee that focuses on it, or perhaps we will do it all as a committee. But if we can keep moving it forward with a subcommittee, that might be an idea. And I'll turn to Matthew afterwards for that to see if he has some ideas about that. So that's the tree bylaw. And the other one, as you know about, is the Thorold 10,000 tree project, which I started working on. And I'd like also to create perhaps a subcommittee here, a subgroup that can focus on that. My intention there, for those of you that just need a little update, is to get developers, business persons, industry involved in contributing, donating to a fund that is ongoing, so that we have the necessary funds in place to provide trees to anybody who wishes to have a tree on their property or on their boulevard, front yard or backyard. Basically, no questions asked. Let's get this going. Also with money in place to upkeep the trees, the new trees that get put into the ground, so that they're looked after the first couple of years that are so critical. I think it's a win-win for everybody. I think developers, industry, and businesses would jump on board, because everyone is starting to recognize the need for a healthy tree canopy, and Thorold is severely lacking, as many of you know. So it's better to start sooner than later. So that is the two areas that I've been working on. So sorry for the long-winded
Oh, no.
explanations.
That was a good explanation, and I understand the need. I think the priority should be first to get the trees planted, get that going first before we do try to work on some kind of tree protection on the mature trees. It will engage the community a bit more. And I think I'm going to ask Carrie to probably speak on something, because I recently went to the MPCA website and I found that they have Trees for All, and it's a mapping program that works with the residents. So without getting too much into it, Carrie, do you recognize what I'm talking about? Would you like to speak on that?
Sure, that was one of the two reasons I had put my hand up. So right now the NPCA is collecting basically a list of private landowners that are willing and able to plant trees on their own property if there are funding opportunities available to help either subsidize those trees or however that looks. So right now they're just having people sign up and kind of put their properties on a list, so that we have a sense for each municipality and for the whole Niagara Peninsula watershed where there is public interest in planting trees. The big push for that is primarily because we are aware that over 90% of the land in Niagara is privately owned. And so if we only focus on public lands and conservation areas, we're not going to be able to move that needle of tree canopy ahead very far unless we start looking at more and more private land as well. So that whole program kind of stems from the 2 billion trees program and that federal funding, because we're hoping that the program that we develop with that funding will be both restoration work on private land and public land and that kind of like together. So that is happening right now. And absolutely, if anybody has land and an interest in having additional trees, we're happy to have you add your property to that list. So that is on the NPCA website, and I'm happy to share it with the link to the committee if anybody wants to send it to anybody they know or is interested. Additionally to that, the other point that I was going to say, if it's okay that I keep talking, was that a number of municipalities have in the last few years started doing tree giveaways. So they buy like a 1 gallon potted trees that cost maybe $10, and they might buy 500 of them. And they do like community giveaways at like a farmer's market or a community event to just try to get more trees planted on private land. So that's another option if the city was interested in doing something like that. And perhaps it can go along with the cleanup. Like if you participate in the cleanup, maybe you get to take a free tree home, something like that. There is a little bit of budget associated with those things, and cleanups don't tend to cost a whole lot of money in terms of materials. Like you need gloves and garbage bags, but they don't really cost a huge amount of money. So perhaps that could be joined with that program as an idea, because the timing for planting trees is good in the spring and the fall.
Okay, very good. John, you've got your hand up.
I do have my hand up. It was intentional. I have a question for Councillor O'Hare with respect to the tree planting as opposed to the protection of mature trees. 10,000 trees over 50 years is what I understand. How did we arrive at the time frame?
All right, through you, Mr. Chair.
Optimistic.
Yeah, I guess I liked. I just took a number and I thought, how many trees can I realistically imagine I could get into the ground or inspire people to put into a ground? And I thought 200 trees might be something that we could handle, that we could shoot for. And then, to be quite honest, I feel that this is just an ongoing project, and I thought a big number would attract attention, would get people thinking and talking about it. And so the 10,000 trees was just a number that I selected, and I spread it over 50 years just to emphasize that this is an ongoing endeavor that we should be pursuing and supporting. So that's where the numbers came from.
Roger that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor O'Hare. Amber, you've got your hand up.
Just a quick question. Has Thorold looked into, I know that's not as kind of widespread throughout the Niagara region yet, but have we looked at any sort of canopy assessments or anything like that to kind of be able to just have that backup background information in order to better inform kind of actions moving forward?
Through you, Councillor O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amber, there has been a study done. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but I know that through that study, that Thorold was severely lacking in the tree canopy, like down an incredible amount. And I'm going to just guess right now, 40% below what we should be at. So somewhere there is, and maybe planning department has it, perhaps that might be an area. So we should get those numbers, but I know I've read it a few times that we haven't done well in putting trees back in the ground. We've lost many to disease. We've lost far too many to development, and it's a reality that we need to get going.
Okay. Ava, you've got your hand up.
Yes, just to add to that, I've been looking at some of the incredible master plans that have been produced by the city of Thorold. And one of them, of course, is the downtown Thorold's streetscape master plan. And it has a very, very important section on trees and landscaping. So there's a go-to for a document that has received approval by council.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
sure there are many more.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or viewpoints? Okay, so I guess what we're looking at with this committee, we're really representing the people, aren't we? We're going to check to try to reach out for engagement to get some guidance, get some grassroots movement going forward. I don't see this committee as a committee that's going to be going to council asking for things because we want them. I think we have to get the people behind us so that we move forward to council and say, this is what the people want. So I understand, Councillor Harry, you're talking about, some possible subcommittees, and I think that's great. If we can somehow get community involvement in that, where we build neighborhood groups, so to speak, get pockets throughout the city of Thorold to get them engaged and bring the people closer together with the goal of paying attention to the environment and what we need to do as people to put forward initiatives that are going to help it. I see, Councillor, here you got your hand up first. Comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, I just want to mention that at this hour exactly, I should be in attendance of another meeting. Unfortunately, I'm here for this one. Both are very important. And the other one is regarding our farmers market initiative, which will be up and running, I'm almost certain, this year in the spring. And this would certainly be an opportunity where we could tie in a lot of our ideas from this committee with people attending the farmers market. They go hand in hand. So I just wanted to throw that out there and inform people that will be coming very soon. And I'll keep you posted on that as well.
Okay, thank you. John and Matthew both had their hands up. I'm not too sure who got theirs up first. I'll go with John.
Well, thank you. With your indulgence, I would like to I've been thinking, which is not always a good sign, but it may be this time. And I'm thinking in terms of communications and outreach to community and trying to engage people. And I was wondering if there was some kind of umbrella program that council might consider under which each and every one of these initiatives might fall. So something like a clean green Thorold, for want of something better. Some kind of communication program that would allow us to say tree planting is part of this. Maintaining mature canopy is part of this. Greening parking lots is part of this, and all of them would be branded in the same way, so that there was some coherence to the programming that we're doing, to the projects that we're doing. I know this isn't on the agenda, but it's something that's been exercising my mind. And so I just throw that out there for consideration.
Okay, well, I'm going to touch back with you on that, but I'll go to Matthew first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple of things I wanted to provide some comment on for you and for the committee. First, let's go off John's point there. As we gear to the end of 2023, Council is going to be looking at its strategic plan going forward for the next 4 years, for the rest of the term of Council and into the first year of the next term of Council. And being able to advocate for environmental policy and decisions and the work you're talking about on trees here, I think is a great way to get that at that higher program level. And when you have a overarching theme as part of your strategic plan, there are a number of specific projects that get put under there. So whether that's the tree planting or other aspects of the work this committee wants to do, perhaps you can get some of those included in that strat plan. So then you have Council's overall approval, as well as that really becomes part of the work the city is really trying to do over the next few years. So working with Council and councillors and advocating that as we start that process in the next, well, in the coming months to the end of this year, that's going to be important. So definitely think about that and keep that on mind as we move into that period this year.
Sure.
To the other point, as you're developing this work plan, I just want to point out it is starting to be filled out as was attached to your agenda. And I might recommend that thinking about some of this discussion today, perhaps come to the next meeting with some ideas on how to fill out some of the other columns in that work plan, such as timeframes and perhaps resources that might be required. And with that, we do try to assign a person or group responsible, and that gets back to Councillor O'Hare's point, these idea of subcommittees. Within your terms of reference, you have the ability to create working groups. So a working group really is a time-specific, time-limited, very focused group of people made up from this committee. We try to keep that less than the quorum of the committee. So you're looking at about max 4 members per working group. But a working group really does work outside of this group on that specific topic. You don't have to have staff involved, although you certainly can. We don't take minutes. So whoever's leading that working group would just take information and bring it back to this committee as a regular standing item. But you can also include community members for that. So if, for example, it's the tree planting, if we wanted to include anyone else from the NPCA or other community groups that maybe are already trying to action this item and get their feedback to bring back to this committee through that process, that's a great way to do that. So just some things to think about, perhaps between now and the next meeting, of how you can incorporate some of this right into your work plan and really focus some of the discussions you're having on those items that you've set as your actions.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor O'Hare, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, through you to John, I love that that expression, clean, green, thorough. It's bang on of some of the things you want to do. So I really like that. I think we should just keep that.
There's a multitude of sins.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, if I can talk about what John was talking about, this umbrella group, and Matthew was expanding on it too. We did have some discussions on a few other things in the last meeting where Leslie Daniels talked about some houses over on Chapel Street South that had boulevard plantings, and Thorold's bylaw speaks to not allowing that, so to speak. But I reached out to a couple of communities and got their bylaws on how they have adjusted their noxious weed bylaw to allow boulevard planting, and some of them are really good. Mississauga has a beautiful policy where they have a no-cost permit that the homeowner applies for, and it just goes further in. I forwarded that to Ava. Ava went online and provided so many more. So I just thought that this might be something. I don't know how many people in the community are really going to embrace it, but I think it's something that perhaps we can probably get a working group going where through the bylaws that Ava has found, Leslie indicated to me in a previous conversation that she's got several copies from various communities. If Ava and Leslie could probably get together and probably with the assistance of maybe Councillor Longo, because this was his committee's, was his idea to promote this. And I'm not too sure how the procedure would move forward on this, where Leslie and Ava could sort of cherry pick from the various bylaws that they see, comparing it to what Thorold's is, and see if we get something put together that can be put forward to council, to the, I guess, the legal department or bylaw department, to see if they can fine tune it, and then we can move forward with that kind of an initiative. The neighborhood that I'm in with Welland Street South, Chapel Street South, there is quite a bit of boulevard planting going on. Some of them aren't really looked after, and I'm glad that the city really hasn't gone after them to do some cleanup, but it would be nice that if we can get something in place at that point. There's bylaw enforcement that they could then initiate certain planting types, and how close the plants are to the curb, et cetera, height, specific types of plants that could be planted. So I think we can look at that for engaging the community. One other thing that I'm trying to reach out to another person is the community gardens that you see popping up in a lot of the communities now, where neighborhoods are getting together, and cities have put up programs that offer some kind of financial assistance to the neighborhoods to start these community gardens. And this brings the community together, which is what we want to see. I mean, I heard during the election campaigning, so many councillors were talking about they wanted to see Thorold brought together to get that small town feel again. And with the tree planting initiatives, the boulevard planting, the clean green Thorold type of an idea where we can get people working together. And this is a huge step moving towards getting Thorold on the map of being an environmentally friendly community to live in and develop. So any comments or further offerings on what I'm saying? Councillor O'Hare?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Brilliant. These are great suggestions, great ideas. I know myself in walking through your neighborhood, I'm always in awe at some of the boulevard planting. The majority of it is so well done, looked after, beautiful. So I really think this is also something that we should be addressing. I love the fact that you've taken the initiative already and approached some of these other municipalities and to see what their regulations are. And as well, with the community gardens, I've already been in touch with, I know her first name's Erin from St. Catharines. I think she might be with MPCA. I don't know. Carrie, do you know a woman named Erin who's responsible for community gardens?
I've been in contact with Erin. She is not with the NPCA, but we've been chatting, and she's part of the community gardens network, basically. I think Amber, you said United Way, maybe. Yeah, through
that's it.
Yeah, through the United Way. Yeah, but
That's
she has been connecting with me because a lot of the community gardens, I think, are wanting to include pollinator gardens adjacent to the community gardens this year, which is great to make that connection between food production and pollinators. So
Great. So we already have a connection. She'd love to come to St. Catharines, to Thorold, and do a walk around and look at some possible spots. But I think, again, that would be another great working group to focus on how we can move forward with that. There's a lot of issues that you have to tackle with community gardens, and a bit of work involved there, but I think there's support for it out there, and I think we should be pursuing that as well.
Yeah, St. Catharines has quite a few. I've reached out. I was supposed to meet with one of the organizers in Hague Street neighborhood this past Sunday, but my hip was bothering me too much, and they were doing an introductory program. And I was actually at a CD Sunday at the St. Giles Church, and the FBCA had a table set up next to me, and it was Heather that was there, and I guess Carrie was supposed to be there. And I think the St. Catharines representative was there because I know she was talking to Heather, and I heard her talk about St. Catharines. But by the time I got a chance to try to reach out to her, I had too many people in front of my booth to be able to talk to her. But I wanted to, St. Catharines has, there's one on Catherine Street. The one that Hague Street's doing is York and Taylor. There's one up in the north end of St. Catharines. There's one on Laura Secord, where the old Niagara College horticultural building was. I just discovered online that Meriton has applied for theirs. They've been approved. So now they're at the stage where they've got to set up their costing to find out what the city's, what it's going to cost and how much they're going to get from the city and how they're going to come up with their share of the money, whether it's going to be fundraising through the community or something. But St. Catharines has got a good program in place now, I think. And like you say, tying in the pollinator gardens, I guess, is the second step to expanding it and benefiting both aspects of food production and I guess insect pollinator protection. John, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question with respect to community gardens. When just to clarify, are we talking allotments or are we talking something different from allotments? When we say community garden, what's the allotments are on public land, a space is set aside for an individual to garden?
Yes, they're all pretty well, I think that's the way they're located now.
Okay, thank you.
They're not very large. Any of the ones that I've seen. Oh, there's another one behind on Oakdale, across from the old Hotel du parking lot. And that's probably the biggest one that I've seen. It must have at least 8 raised beds in there. So I'm not too sure the size of the community that is involved in it. These fall rather new to me, so I'm still trying to read what I can.
I am an old Vancouverite, and so boulevard gardening started as guerrilla gardening,
Right.
And allotments were also guerrilla at the beginning. There was an unused Canadian Pacific Railway line, and there were allotments built all along that railway line. And the Canadian Pacific came through and tore them all up. The city then bought the land, and now there are allotments there again.
Okay,
So,
excellent. Okay, Amber, you've got your hand up.
I do, thank you. I was just going to make a comment in relation to the community gardens and the boulevard gardening and it being an opportunity for pollinators and pollinator gardening as well. I think that I'm not exactly sure on the nuances of what's being proposed with the bylaw for the boulevard plantings, but I think that there may be an opportunity there to integrate some polite suggestions for pollinator friendly plants in those spaces. And community gardens are also such a great way to introduce those plants and really draw that connection. Another thing that I know that the Downtown Association in St. Catharines had been working on over the past year was integrating some raised pollinator beds throughout the downtown as part of kind of a beautification, but also a engagement opportunity with some local schools and just kind of bring some pollinators to the urban area downtown. So that maybe as part of that conversation, it's something that we could consider in the future.
Yeah, somebody did mention to me, I'm not too sure in the conversation, it might have been Leslie, about an initiative like that on Front Street, to complement the trees that are planted there. Okay, a lot of the cities do hanging baskets and they're nice and pretty, but they're nothing to the pollinators. It's just it's eye candy for the people that are down there shopping. Any other comments? I guess we covered that. What else do we have here? I think I've lost my agenda. Okay. So I guess we're finished with our work plan. I think we got some ideas that next meeting we can come back and start. Oh, Matthew?
Yeah, I was just going to recommend, Mr. Chair, if there were some definite comments around some potential working groups. So what we'll do is we'll add any of that to the minutes. We'll let the committee review those as we get them done. We'll try and get them done this week or next so everybody has an opportunity to read them. And perhaps what I'd recommend is for the next meeting when we cover the work plan, if we are set on some working groups you'd like to start up right away, we do it at that time. You can pass a motion for each one you can create and put individuals on it. And everyone's had an opportunity to really review and make those or have thought into it before you make those decisions.
Excellent. Yeah, very good. Okay, I guess we've covered that off. So let's move into roundtable discussion. Any extra comments that anybody has to make? John, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I do. I've got a question, and it has to do with the Green Municipal Fund, which Megan was going to speak to. I noted in the capital budget for this year that there is 1.5 million for replacing the ice plant at the arena. And I wondered if anyone could tell me how far along that project is, whether or not there was any latitude for applying to the Green Municipal Fund to provide funding for that, whether or not that's also looked at as part of a broader assessment of the arena and how you retrofit to make it carbon neutral. Anybody got any answers?
Well, Councillor O'Hare's got his hand up.
Through you, Mr. Chair. My hand was up, yes. Not to answer that question. John, that was decided prior to me being on council, so I don't have a concrete answer for you. I can find out. I know there are some green initiative grants being applied for various things, such as our new museum that we're hoping to be able to establish. But I'm not sure. I think I might have heard something just in talking, but I don't have anything concrete, so I can't answer a yes or no, but we could find out for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll expect you to get back to John on that, Councillor O'Hare. Okay, Amber, do you have anything for roundtable?
I do not.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Eva, anything for the roundtable?
One thing I keep asking myself is make sure you put on the table that all of these wonderful plans that have been produced by the city of Thorold in the past, are there annual outcome reports that we could have access to be able to say, oh, okay, these particular priority initiatives have been addressed and this is how they've been addressed. So I guess I'll throw that out as a question. Is there a place we can go to determine, for example, the downtown plan? How has that evolved?
And did they complete everything? Yes. Very good. I didn't see who popped their hand up first. Was that you, John?
I don't know, but if you will indulge me, I don't know if anybody is familiar with this, the climate book, Greta Thunberg.
Okay.
It is a series of 85 essays by climate scientists and experts in the field on every aspect of the climate crisis. Everything from vector-borne diseases to plastic pollution in the ocean to the fact that we don't count the emissions from biomass, that sort of thing. So if it was an education to me, and I always thought of myself as being well informed. Another thing I'd like to just raise quickly, if I may, at our last meeting, Councillor O'Hare and I both spoke to the issue of greening parking lots. And quite fortuitously, France, the country, recently passed a law that mandates that every parking lot of more than 80 spaces will provide solar canopy over their parking spaces, over 50% of their area. For parking lots over 400 spaces, they must comply by 2025. parking lots of between 80 and 400 have until 2027. The upshot will be sufficient energy produced to eliminate the need for 11 nuclear power plants, which is how France generates most of its power. And it will have cost the equivalent of less than one nuclear power plant to do it. And one of the reasons they suggested 50% is that they know that by the time people do that, they find out that it's a moneymaker and they will probably cover the whole thing. So I just throw that out there as sort of grist for the mill, because there's a parking lot fetish in Thorold. You know, I travel on foot, so I go from one parking lot to another parking lot to another parking lot in order to get to from point A to point B. And they really contribute to the heat island effect in the downtown specifically. So just things to ponder. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. Councillor O'Hare.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to also share this. It's 50 by 30. I don't know if you can see that. 50 by 30. You might want to check it out. Most of you probably have heard of it. It's the goal is 50% greenhouse gas reductions by 2030. And there's a lot of interesting information that pops up all the time. Events, facts, actions, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie, did you have anything for the roundtable?
I don't have anything at this time. Anything that I was going to speak to with respect to the Trees for All program and everything was already spoken to. And I just wanted to echo Amber's statements about if we're looking at boulevard plantings to encourage the use of native plants to support pollinators and other local wildlife. We probably are not going to get anywhere with, you know, mandating or requiring native plants, but, you know, politely encouraging is always great. And I just wanted to, I don't know, because I don't work at the city of Thorold, but to Eva's comment earlier, I don't know, I don't think it was answered. So I think maybe she was looking for, you know, is there annual reports or something like that that speak to how we're doing on the strategic plans and those things. So maybe it's a question that needs to be answered by somebody that's not in the room.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, then I guess our next meeting will be April 7th. Is that the correct date at 10 a.m.? Councillor O'Hare?
Yes, that's through you, Mr. Chair. That's Good Friday.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Chair, I think we had identified that at our first meeting as April and September. And I can't remember, there was a third date as well. That would be days off because of holidays.
Okay, Matthew, can you answer that?
I can. So although your calendar may have originally said that, we can certainly look at just moving that next meeting. So perhaps bumping it either a week forward or back. And I don't know if the committee has any preference, whether it's the 31st or the 14th. But maybe what we'll do is I'll have Sydney on Monday when she's back, just do an assessment to make sure there's no other meetings at that time on either 31st or 14th. And we'll send out an email just confirming for everybody the most appropriate date.
Sure, because everybody agrees that you want to have the meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, okay. And we'll just wait for which is going to be the preferred date, and we'll just accept that as. Okay, then there's no other business to discuss now. Our meeting date is still up in the air, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting. And it was some great discussion going on for today. Hopefully we can move forward with some of these initiatives.
Absolutely.